Hi everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome to the 18th episode of Mondays with Margaret. I hope that you are all doing well. We've been seeing the sunshine a bit more around here, but it's still a bit chilly, and the cold weather means more time to read. So today we will be talking about Margaret Atwood's ninth poetry collection, True Stories. True Stories was originally published in 1981, and like Atwood's previous collections, we see a lot of the similar themes, such as social injustice, nature. And in particular to this collection, there are also themes of torture, poetry, and the importance of writing. And if you've been following this series, then you know how important Canadian literature is to Atwood, and the great role that she has played in making Canadian literature what it is today. So I am also excited about Canada Reads, which begins today and goes until March 11th. I will talk a bit more about that and how I am involved with Canada Reads with some of my friends at the end of this video. True Stories is divided into three sections. The first section begins with the poem True Stories, and this sets the tone for the collection and some of the themes that exist. Like we've seen in other collections, Atwood often plays with the tension of opposites or enjoys playing with words. For example, True Stories is really about the fact that a true story cannot be told because the truth gets lost in the details and how they are perceived. And I love how this is explained on page 11. It says, "The true story lies among the other stories, a mess of colors like jumbled clothing thrown off or away." Other poems in this section include themes of nature. The poem Small Poems for the Winter Solstice is made up of 14 small poems. And in the fifth one on page 30, she talks about writing poetry. It says, "No way clear. I write on the lines across this yellow paper. Poetry. It's details like this that drag at me, and the nasty little bells on the corners I pass on my way to meet you, singing of hunger, darkness, and poetry and poverty." True Romances finishes this section, and it is made up of 5 small poems. But these are not the Harlequin romances of novels you might expect. I'm going to read the first one to you, and you will see that they go to a very dark place. "When I knew them, they were an ordinary couple. She smiled and laughed a lot. She was a physiotherapist, I think, and there was nothing wrong with him either, that you could see, except he was little. You know. That summer, they went on their vacations together. They always went on their vacation together, to Spain. That was back when you could still afford it, and everyone thinks he cut her up and left her in 4 garbage cans around the city. Or maybe not in cans. Do they have cans there? In Barcelona, except it wasn't Barcelona. It's like that guy who was keeping his wife in the freezer, you know? And a couple of kids went looking for some popsicles or whatever. He didn't even have a lock on the freezer. Some people are pretty dumb. He said they'd gone to Madrid, except it wasn't Madrid. And one day she just went out for a walk and never came back. But the landlady in Barcelona, or whatever it was, says she saw him back at the flat, or wherever it was that they'd rented, after the day he said they'd gone to wherever. And the cans with her in them were in Barcelona, not Madrid. So they're there, and he's here, and naturally they want him to go over for questioning, they say. And naturally he won't. He said he doesn't need the distress all over again. I'll bet. Not that I would either if I was him. I saw him in the supermarket last week. He was holding an eggplant and he said, 'Aubergine, it's a much better word, don't you think?' He was running his fingers over the purple skin. He hasn't changed a bit." So we see in this poem that tension and duality where something is something and then not something at the same time. And that poem is from page 40. The second section is called Notes Towards a Poem That Can Never Be Written. And this section begins with some pretty dark material, the way the first section ended. I'm going to begin with Flying Inside Your Own Body on page 47. Your lungs fill and spread themselves, wings of pink blood, and your bones empty themselves and become hollow. When you breathe in, you'll lift like a balloon, and your heart is light, too, and huge, beating with pure joy, pure helium. The sun's white winds blow through you. There's nothing above you. You see the earth now as an oval jewel, radiant and sea blue with love. It's only in dreams you can do this. Waking, your heart is shaken first. A fine dust clogs the air you breathe in. The sun's a hot copper weight pressing straight down on the thick, pink rind of your skull. It's always the moment just before gunshot. You try and try to rise, but you cannot. And the next one I want to share is called Torture. It's on page 50. What goes on in the pauses of this conversation, which is about free will and politics and the need for passion? Just this, I think of the woman they did not kill. Instead, they sewed her face shut, closed her mouth to a hole the size of a straw, and put her back on the streets, a mute symbol. It doesn't matter where this was done or why, or whether by one side or the other. Such things are done as soon as there are sides. And I don't know if good men living crisp lives exist because of this woman or in spite of her. But power like this is not abstract. It's not concerned with politics and free will. It's beyond slogans, and as for passion, this is its intricate denial, the knife that cuts lovers out of your flesh like tumors, leaving you breastless and without a name, flattened, bloodless, even your voice cauterized by too much pain. A flayed body untangled string by string and hung to the wall, an agonized banner displayed for the same reason flags are. And the last one I want to share in this section is called A Women's Issue. This is on page 54. The woman in the spiked device that locks around the waist and between the legs, with holes in it like a tea strainer, is Exhibit A. The woman in black with a net window to see through and a 4-inch wooden peg jammed up between her legs so she can't be raped is Exhibit B. Exhibit C is the young girl dragged into the bush by the midwives and made to sing while they scrape the flesh from between her legs, then tie her thighs till she scabs over and is called healed. Now she can be married. For each childbirth, they'll cut her open, then sew her up. Men like tight women. The ones that die are carefully buried. The next exhibit lies flat on her back while 80 men a night move through her, 10 an hour. She looks at the ceiling, listens to the door open and close. A bell keeps ringing. Nobody knows how she got here. You'll notice that what they have in common is between the legs. Is this why wars are fought? Enemy territory, no man's land, to be entered furtively, fenced, owned but never surely. Scene of these desperate forays at midnight, captures and sticky murders. Doctors' rubber gloves greasy with blood. Flesh made inert, the surge of your own uneasy power. This is no museum. Who invented the word love? In this section is also the poem Spelling on page 64, which is the poem that has Atwood's famous line, "A word after a word after a word is power." This line in this section of this collection are significant and I think hold the main message of what Atwood is trying to say. This section ends with the poem Notes Towards a Poem That Can Never Be Written, which is about writing poetry, the poet, and the poet being tortured for writing a poem. But the overall message of the collection, I think, is that the writing is necessary, that it has power, and that it can change the injustices that Atwood has written about, throughout the entire collection. In the final section, one of the first poems is called Last Poem. Atwood begins this poem with similar images as we saw in the first poem in the collection on page 74. And the first verse says, "Tonight words fall away from me like shed clothing thrown casually on the floor, as if there's no tomorrow, and there's no tomorrow." The poems in this section, like in the first section, have a lot of nature: rain, mushrooms, sunsets, seasons, the weather, birds, and other animals. It also includes the ideas of words and writing. And one of the poems is called Variations of the Word Sleep. And the one that I want to share with you is Variations on the Word Love, which begins on page 82. Variations on the word love. This is a word we use to plug holes with. It's the right size for those warm blanks in speech, for those red heart-shaped vacancies on the page that look nothing like real hearts. Add lace and you can sell it. We insert it also in the one empty space on the printed form that comes with no instructions. There are whole magazines with not much in them but the word love. You can rub it all over your body, and you can cook with it too. How do we know it isn't what goes on at the cool debaucheries of slugs under damp pieces of cardboard? As for the weed seedlings nosing their tough snouts up among the lettuces, they shout it. "Love, love," sing the soldiers, raising their glittering knives in salute. Then there's the two of us. This word is far too short for us. It has only 4 letters. Too sparse to fill those deep, bare vacuums between the stars that press on us with their deafness. It's not love we don't wish to fall into, but that fear. This word is not enough, but it will have to do. It's a single vowel in this metallic silence, a mouth that says, "Oh," again and again in wonder and pain, a breath, a finger grip on a cliffside. You can hold on or let go. As we've seen in all of Atwood's poetry, she writes spectacular metaphors and her imagery is unmatched. And we are seeing some of the themes we know Atwood usually writes about, but I think the importance of writing and writing with purpose comes out in a more significant way in this collection. If you have read these poems, I would love to hear your thoughts. As I've mentioned in previous videos and at the beginning of this video, Canada Reads 2021 begins today. It goes from March 8th until the 11th, and I will leave links to it below. I will be on YouTube Live each night at 7:30 p.m. with my friends Rebecca and Shauna from Canada Reads American Style, along with my fellow Canadian peeps, Sarah, Tara, and Larissa. We will be recapping the debates and we might have a surprise guest or two. If you have the chance, we would love for you to join us. You can join in the conversation. You'll have the opportunity to comment and ask questions. It'll be a little bit different if you were following us last year, but it'll be a lot of fun. So we hope to see you there. Please let me know what you thought of True Stories. Did you like the poems? Did you notice any themes that I might not have mentioned? As always, I will leave the reading schedule for Mondays with Margaret for this series in the description box below. I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoy your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.